Bird School Building a Better Way interview series. We've done a few of these now, and we've had really good feedback, so we're really happy that you can join us, those of you who get to view this. Today, what we want to do is I want to introduce you to a person that is a professional out in the industry and also happens to be an adjunct faculty here at the Burn School. I want to introduce you to Todd Johnson, and Todd is president of Terraforma Solutions here in Denver. So Todd, go ahead and give us a little bit about your vast and varied background, if you will.
Well, thank you. And really, we should be doing this interview with a drone, right, instead of cameras. But my background started about 25 years plus ago in the industry. Came out here in Colorado in '92, started off in the surveying world, and then got into engineering pretty quickly in the civil engineering side, and then transitioned over the last couple of years into more of an owner's rep type of representative for a lot of my clients in the real estate and land development world. And so that's been very rewarding for me just to lead some very large projects within the Denver metropolitan area here, working on a very large one right now in Aurora that we're going to try to put in about $75 million worth of infrastructure this coming year. So it's been very interesting, again, from that perspective, and very dynamic. And really technology has played a large part in what we do on a daily basis. And when we get into the construction side, we'll play even a larger part with the drone technology that we're going to talk about here today. So.
And how prevalent is the use of drones in the industry right now?
Excuse me, I think it's actually becoming more and more prevalent. So like I say, probably 4 or 5 years ago, we got into a situation where we weren't quite seeing them a lot, but now I would say 1 out of 4 projects are starting to see that technology becoming something that's routine for the site.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And from an engineering perspective, are you actually doing any of the engineering, the staking, the siting elevations or grade elevations? Are you using it in any way actually from an engineering perspective?
We're actually able to show, students and also engineers within the industry, this is how we construct a water line, right? And this is how we build certain elements, where if you take them out into the field while this stuff is being constructed, again, you get into a safety concern there. So it can be a very great teaching tool and, again, reduce safety from that perspective being out there.
For the surveying crews and such, which have to certify their work, does the data that's collected, if you are collecting it through collecting images through zones and such, through drones and such, is that viable? Is it legitimate? Is it legally acceptable that it wasn't a crew that was out there, but instead it was images and such, or even calculations or for elevations and such that you got from the drone information? Yeah,
the data has really come to a point now, and again, this has evolved really very quickly over the last couple of years, where I would say, again, 4 or 5 years ago, we could use this data to within a foot. Now we're starting to see data that's pulled together that is sub-inches.
Really?
So we're on the grading side. If we're within 2 or 3 inches on a grading contract, that's typically pretty good for us.
Yes.
And you wouldn't get it that much closer if you were out there doing the surveying, anyways.
Absolutely, and that can all be used to do certified work and provide the surveys and all of that and documentation that we need for the site planning and layouts and everything.
Exactly, and there, from the collection side, that's very close. On the layout side, we're still doing a lot of that manually, and so we get into a situation where we're advancing from at least the theodolites that were out there. We've advanced to the GPS. I think very quickly we're going to start to get into situations where, the GPS has already been able to be put out onto the equipment, so there's limited staking that is now done. And I think the drone technology will also help from a daily perspective from that side as well. So,
is there pushback from those survey folks and the people in that business? Are they saying, no, we don't want any more drones, please leave the drones out of it?
No, I really think there's an embracing of the technology because the surveyors that were doing all this work before, are actually getting into that world now,
Yeah.
right? And so
Okay.
you've really transitioned from different types of individuals. Maybe instead of field crews, you've transitioned into technicians within the office and so forth. And so we're seeing a lot of that. I haven't really seen a large or really any pushback on the technology, because it is also cool, technology that you see that a lot of kids are in video games these days, and you're doing a lot of things that are very similar to that.
You might actually end up attracting more people to get into this business, because that's been one of our issues in the business for a while, is the workforce and workforce development.
Yes.
Well, when all of a sudden playing with drones becomes cool, and it is cool, it might actually start attracting some folks to get
Yes.
into it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So that's fun too.
Yeah.
And I know they enjoy it in the classrooms. Let's talk a little bit about the liability issues and the risk issues with the actual flying of the drones, and what kind of trouble you can get into there.
Well, you really need to be licensed for a lot of this stuff that you work. Again, like you mentioned, you can pull one of these things off the shelf and run it around your neighborhood. But even in your neighborhood setting, you might get yourself into a little trouble with looking into your neighbor's yard or things like that. So we try to make sure that we're not getting into those areas where we're going to increase our liabilities by privacy issues, for one. So depending on where the site is, we'll actually set up how we're going to monitor the site with cameras, or also the drones and what flight paths they take. Also, the project that I mentioned is out by the airport, right next to DIA. So there is a very limited window that we can fly a lot of times, and there's also a height restriction there as well. So we actually originally had done aerial imagery on this project and gathered a lot of our topography for the site. And it was very interesting there, because we could only fly about a half an hour window, and really for a site that large, which was about 10 sections that we were flying, it took us a couple weeks to actually get the work done because we were so close. So there are, to your question, there's a lot of regulations that you need to be aware of. And so the companies that we get involved with, we make sure they are licensed, we make sure that they have their license to fly the drones, and they're very cognizant of those things that they do need to watch out for. And when you get into an urban setting, it's also the privacy side of it.
Yeah.
How do we keep the cameras from, looking at certain things or looking at certain areas, but also monitoring a site, and getting up there and looking at those things that, you want to get to and see. And you can do this with a drone, but, you would have had to do it by hand or climb up into unsafe conditions before.
So definitely there's a lot of pluses on the safety side. I think there's a lot of pluses probably on the manpower usage and utilization side. Tell us a little bit about dollars and cents. Is this saving people? How expensive is it? Is it saving people money? Is it making things more efficient? How's all that?
Yeah, again, I think it's like a lot of technology. When it started off, it was very competitive, I would say, with a lot of the traditional methods, but it's actually come to a point within the last couple of years that it is more economical to actually run with a drone type of technology. The example I gave you on just checking quantities, that is something that actually can be done probably 25 to 50% cheaper than what we would have seen traditionally from sending a crew out, which could be a 1 or 2 person crew, taking that data out, bringing it back into the office. A lot of time this is happening real time these days. And so you really have seen, again, like a lot of technology, it exponentially starting to save you money over time. And we think it'll only get better.
Yeah, well, that's very good to hear. We always like to hear when it's going to save money, of course, and almost all the technologies have started at a higher price range, but then it becomes very, very affordable very quick.
Yes.
What do the students think about all this when you present this in the classrooms? Because I know you show them projects and take them out on the projects, show them lots of images of these drones in action. So what do they think of all that?
I think it's a big eye-opener for them, right? Because as we all have probably come up in the world of reading out of a book and trying to visualize yourself what we're talking about or what the professor is talking about, we have instances where, you can be talking about, why did I orientate a land development project this way? Well, here's the reason why. I have mountain views, right? Or I'm looking at, this riparian area that I have on the project. Or why are we constructing, infrastructure a certain way? So why are we putting, a fire hydrant 10 feet off of this area? Okay, because it's all these valves. And you can talk about those things until you're blue in the face a lot of times, but, actually being able to see these things in real life, I think is really the point where the light bulb really comes on, and you make an immediate connection to the students, and I think the students really find that valuable in their lesson.
Yeah. Well, what I want to share with everybody is Todd
Actually went through our executive master's program here at the Burns School, and along the way, I wanted to share one thing. I wanted to share why he decided to do this advanced degree anyway. But the other thing is, along the way, he showed an interest in teaching for us as well. So this is a class example right here of a professional who pursued advanced education and then turned around and became part of the education while was still a professional in the program or out there in the world. And that's what makes some of our classes so valuable, is this is the types of folks that we have actually teaching for us. But first, share with us why you were attracted to the Burns School and our real estate and the built environment program to begin with.
Well, I'm a civil engineering, graduate, and I was looking for advancing that degree. I have a professional engineer's license, and I was just looking, I should think about, one, just advancing, that side of it. And I looked at a lot of different programs. And when I looked at it, and my personal life as well, I said, it'd be great to do that, but I have zero time. And so how do I actually, get a degree? And so that was my initial driver, but it wasn't really the decision maker. And so I think one of the large things is I can do this program online. So the executive program, you're able to do this online, 2 hours a week with a class. That's nothing, really in the grand scheme of things. You can get that through that pretty easily. But I really felt that as I started to investigate the program a little more, and the reason really why I picked the program was individuals probably like myself. We were getting experience not only out of the book, but we were getting real life experience from individuals that are in the profession. And I think at the end of the day, that is probably the largest feedback that I've received from most of my students, is being able to hear that, that experience you gave me of that meeting that you just went through the day before, and how you solved that problem, or your examples of real life projects that we're dealing with on today, not something that we read out of a book or something that's already 10 years old. Yeah. I think that was one of the larger decision factors for me in picking the program and then going through the program that really held true. And that's how I've tried to also push forward my teaching as well. As this is what I live on a daily basis. If I can let some of that rub off on you as you learn from myself and the other professors here, I think that's really what sets us apart as a program.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you had said earlier, we were talking, it's not like I said that there's not people sitting around in our business. Nobody's sitting around thinking, gee, I think I'll go get a graduate degree.
Yes.
And yet our enrollments on the graduate side are increasing. Yeah. But it's not because they're sitting there saying, gee, I need to go do this. It's more of us trying to show the advancements in real estate, in construction, in the whole built environment, the innovations, the advancements, new technologies, but also the cultural components of this business as well are changing. So you had used the word, you used it as a finishing school or a polishing school, or however you said it, and I thought, that's really it, because you had what you had what you needed, but there was something else that was drawing you to it.
Yeah, it was really, I tell everybody this really when they ask me about the program. Again, I had over 20 years of experience at the time when I got into it. And so a lot of the courses that you're looking at are, okay, I understand this. I probably understand 90% of what we're teaching here. but I want to get that extra 10%. And I want to be able to polish off my degree with all that knowledge that I can get out of these other professionals within the industry, but also make sure that I am covering all those little gaps that I may have. So I always really tell people it was a polishing degree for me. And the executive program, again, was perfect for that, because you were dealing with a lot of other peers within your classes that had that same type of experience. So when you were working projects with them, you were at that same level. And that was very engaging to work projects with them and come from the same point already and be able to really learn from other people's experiences and give you that little extra for your industry.
Yeah, it's a very, very rich learning environment.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what I thought in my own graduate education is, who gets to do this?
Yes.
Who gets to sit around with experienced peers and talk about things that we have no time to talk about when we're busy doing our job. So, Todd, I just really want to thank you for being here today. And I'm all excited about the kinds of things that you're teaching in our classes, but also that our students, even our young students, our undergrads, are getting to go out with you on the job sites and see what's actually happening out there and hear the good, the bad, and sometimes even the ugly,
Yes.
which are the best lessons of
Yes.
all.
And we can show them visually to them, right? So,
Well,
yes.
thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this interview, and we look forward to you joining us for future interviews as well. Thank you.